All right, we're just gonna flow right into the next one. And wow, that was a terrible pun. I have Dapper Labs coming up next with their talking about their blockchain flow. And I'll bring Roham on right now.
Thank you everybody for tuning in. Before we get started, just a reminder that all forward-looking statements in this presentation are just estimates, no reps or warranties, are made with respect to future performance. Just really quickly, a quick background on me. I'm the founder and CEO of Dapper Labs. Before helping start Dapper Labs, I was CEO of Axiom Zen, the company that originally created CryptoKitties. And I was CEO of Axiom Zen for 6 years. We were profitable every year, never raised outside capital. And I've been peripherally involved in crypto since 2013, 2014. But our most successful products before CryptoKitties have been the developer platforms we've helped build and scale. The first was Fuel, a games as a service platform. My co-founder Mick started in 2011, sold in 2016. Then came Roughtific, which we spun out into an independent company, now profitable. And the third was ZenHub, which we built from scratch and is one of the most popular developer tools built on top of GitHub for both open source teams and some of the biggest companies in the world. But the story about really started with CryptoKitties, and it was an amazing success for us, a $40 million economy of digital cats, and we're very grateful for sort of the position they gave us in the industry. But we knew from the very beginning that the product just wouldn't scale. Millions of people tried to buy kitties, but less than 100,000 succeeded. And even though we talked about $40 million spent on kitties, by my count, close to 4 million of that was spent on gas fees to the Ethereum blockchain. So the problems were about scalability, but also about user experience and cost. And over the past 2 years or so since we released CryptoKitties, it's really been an incredible community for us to build for and learn from. You can jump into Discord and see things are super vibrant even today, a year and a half after we stopped releasing Gen Zero kitties. And we've got players that are with us more than 2 years after releasing the original game. So really exciting kind of community that let us learn sort of what's special about blockchain gaming. But at the same time as all of this was happening, we were talking with teams like Warner Music Group, like the NBA, like the UFC, about what blockchain can help them do at a scale of hundreds of millions or billions of fans. And all of our research, all of our user testing was telling us fans would love the kinds of things we would be able to build together, but it wasn't obvious how to solve the problems that we just talked about. So we got to work. We talked to a lot of the teams building in the space, and we saw their solutions basically fit into 2 buckets. The first buckets were projects like EOS, Libra, permanently reduce or eliminate decentralization to get the speed and throughput that we would need. And then the second bucket, which I think you guys heard the Solana team talk about a little bit, Ethereum 2.0 and most of its competitors are really betting everything on sharding. Whether you call it sidechains, whether you call it parachains, whether you put things on different kinds of layer 2 solutions, it basically means splitting the blockchain up into many smaller networks that have to then communicate with each other asynchronously. And we didn't feel comfortable betting our company or the brands we were entrusted with really to either of these approaches. Because essentially what sharding and layer 2 solutions do is push the problem of scaling across shards up to the application layer, where they're harder to solve. It creates new problems because of having to communicate asynchronously everywhere. And even individual dApps will need to scale across multiple shards to get any real significant scale. Here you can see something that would be one atomic transaction on an uncharted blockchain would actually balloon into multiple transactions across multiple blocks, even for something very simple like, hey, I want to put a hat on my cat. So we decided the complexity and user experience issues were just not acceptable for games, the kinds of consumer products that we wanted to create. That's why it took us almost 2 years, but we created, validated, and have now shipped the new blockchain architecture for Flow, really inspired by how modern CPUs work. And the way it works is essentially as the grunts of the network, we have a small group of very powerful computers. You can actually think of them maybe as analogous to the sort of more powerful nodes and less decentralized blockchains. And these are sort of hardware maximized, so they can scale with new hardware as it comes out every year. And it provides that shared execution environment for the whole network. Every single transaction and every single user account can interact with every single smart contract in one atomic environment because they're being run on this ultra powerful hardware. But these strong computers that are very expensive to operate and need ultra fast internet access, etc., they don't have any actual decision-making power on Flow. All of the work of collecting the transactions, of coming to consensus on their order in each particular block, is done by smaller computers that are much larger in number and much less demanding in terms of hardware capacity. And all of the results are then verified in parallel by an even larger group of even smaller computers that can do all of the work, basically checking every single transaction and getting paid for it over time. And this means that we don't have to shard the network. Any mistake that one of these bigger computers does is immediately detectable, attributable, and punishable by any other node in the system. And the crypto economic incentives make sure that it ends up being just as secure as if every single node in the system was doing every single transaction as it exists today on Ethereum. But the cool thing is that you can have hardware, you can have consumer grade hardware that can connect to the network and be part of validating transactions, be part of sort of this decentralized economy. And this is very much reflected in the staking amounts the protocol has for each of the node types. We don't need a lot of staking, and we don't need a lot of stake from execution nodes because the work that they're doing is fully redundant. A single honest node can find and punish any mistake made, so it's not a big deal for them to actually have small security deposits. But we do ask for a lot of stake from consensus nodes because they're the ones making the subjective decisions. They're the ones slashing and rewarding other node types, and we can talk about validators more in a minute. But this lets us have a much more flexible validator economy, much more flexible token economy. But first, I want to quickly talk about Cadence, because in addition to the new architecture, we also decided that we needed to build a new programming language. We created CryptoKitties on Ethereum. It's one of the most, it's the number 4 most used smart contract in terms of number of transactions across all smart contracts, so including DeFi and Maker and even Tether. And we also built Cheese Wizards, which is probably one of the most complex smart contracts, and the Dapper smart contract wallet, which was the first consumer smart contract wallet. And we learned a lot of things. We realized that new domains have always led to new programming paradigms and new programming languages. And we realized that a lot of the problems that we and the rest of the industry through these hacks and whatnot have been having with Solidity are because in Solidity, as in most programming languages, digital assets are treated as data structures. They're easy to copy, they're easy to create, they're easy to destroy, even accidentally. And 99% of the time, that is fine for most digital things. But for digital assets, for blockchain assets and for smart contracts, the fact that their immutability isn't enforced at the runtime makes it much harder to write safe and secure smart contracts. So we would spend double the time auditing and testing a smart contract as it would take to write it, and that we just felt was completely unworkable. And so the Flow and Facebook teams came to this conclusion independently, but it was Libra that coined the term resources. And resources take these ideas behind linear types to create native representation of assets that can't be created out of nowhere. They can't be accidentally destroyed. They can't be copied without permission. They can only deliberately be moved and acted on according to the rules in their smart contract and according to their ownership. And so because this is built in at the programming language level, it makes it incredibly simple and easy to write smart contracts. And we're grateful to the Libra team for their help in making Cadence compile down to Move bytecode, something that I think both ecosystems will benefit from. So Cadence is a high-level, ergonomic, easy to read, easy to write programming language. Move is kind of the performant virtual machine and bytecode that can sort of make sure that speed and scalability is ensured. And the good news is, for you guys, most of this is ready to check out right now. We're nowhere near done, but this is a good time for the community to start engaging, start helping us get the network started, and start contributing and giving feedback on all of these new ideas that we've come up with based on our shared experience, but I think we'd benefit from hearing from the community as well. And really the best place for developers to start is learning Cadence on the Flow Playground. You'll be in really good company. Over 1,500 projects, over 3,500 smart contracts have already been deployed. And as soon as you know your way around the language, download the VS Code extension, set things up locally, and so you can start building And of course, make sure to join the Flow Discord, chat.onflow.org. 1,000 developers and growing, really awesome community of people that want to build consumer-facing applications, not just sort of play around with financial topics. Although there are many DeFi teams as well. And once you get in there, you'll quickly see that we didn't stop with a new architecture. We didn't stop with the new programming languages. A lot about Flow has been re-engineered so that developers and users don't have to think about the messy parts. You can just get into a flow state with the applications that you're using and the applications that you're writing. And I won't get into the details in this presentation, but suffice it to say, NBA Top Shot would not be possible without a lot of these micro improvements. So without further ado, I want to share a little bit more about our roadmap. We have NBA running on top of the release candidate mainnet right now, and it's working beautifully. We'll soon open it up to people on our wait lists. So go to NBATopShot.com and sign up. And then we'll start spreading invites through influencers and people that are already part of the beta. And in Q4 is, of course, when we're going to launch the mobile game, take things to the next level, and really drive a massive mainstream audience to the product. But Flow is way bigger than the NBA. We already have more than 250 teams testing or building on Flow, including some of the most recognizable names in culture and entertainment. And we already have projects other than games building on Flow, but they all share one thing in common. They need consumer quality user experience as well as the scalability of the actual blockchain itself. And, we want to do co-marketing with most of our partners, so I've only included logos from the partnerships we've already announced. But if you're a developer, there's still plenty of time to get in early. So go to alpha.onflow.org and sign up there, and we'll reach out to you. Because we really want to build a cohesive ecosystem here. That said, we don't believe in giving out cash grants just for people to port products over. We don't give token grants for people just to port products over. And we've never really seen that sort of transactional relationship be successful in any platform shift. We want to think long term. And we think what developers want is a platform that lets them build applications that their users will want and that their users will pay for. And so we put our focus on helping developers build sustainable products, and then help them get an audience, and then help them grow that audience more quickly than they would anywhere else. Ecosystem development for us is also about accessibility. So that's why we're working with a network of universities, nonprofits, staking organizations. And we want to make sure that any developer that is just getting started in blockchain and needs a little bit of flow to deploy their first smart contract, to pay for the gas fees for the first 1,000 users, to pay for on-chain storage, whatever it is, that they don't have to think about that as an expense. So these kinds of programs is really important to us. We want to help people build real products that can scale with real audiences. And then we also want to help new developers get started in blockchain. And don't take it from me. This is what others are saying about Flow today. And I won't read every word. You can sort of read it on your own time, but the same themes jump out. Flow is super easy to use. Flow is super easy to get started with. It lets us build faster, and it lets us focus on the parts that matter. The flip side of the coin from the developers, of course, are the validators. And I'm proud to say we've got an amazing group of initial validators, from some of the most trusted individuals in the crypto community to some of the most well-known brands in the world. Now, of course, once the network is open, anyone can join as a validator. But for now, you'll have to apply so that we can get to know you. So feel free to use that email, validators@onflow.org, to get to know us as well. In terms of roadmap, like I said, the release candidate mainnet is up in testing right now with the initial validator set. Soon we'll start opening up early access for production apps deployed to the beta mainnet. And that will let users come in to test their apps directly with real money, real flow. And Q4 is when we feel we'll be ready for scalability, benchmarking, performance testing. That'll be the main release of the NBA mobile game and other third-party apps that we expect to take us to sort of tens of millions or more on the network. And so if you remember, because of the flow architecture, there's 4 different kinds of validators with 4 different kinds of hardware and staking requirements. And so we expect different organizations to gravitate to each of these different groups. Collection nodes are best for either developers or companies that want to make sure their own transactions get processed quickly. They want to potentially provide this as a for-profit service to other app developers as well. Consensus nodes are best for long-term stakeholders in network success. This might include individuals, but it also definitely includes our lead investors. Execution nodes are probably most similar to digital infrastructure today. We think of it as essentially serverless, Amazon Lambda. And so we expect it to be operated by big technology providers, and it'll start being Samsung, a couple of other Fortune 500s that we hope to announce in the next few weeks and months. And then the verification nodes can be anybody. It's a super low barrier to entry, super low staking requirement, super low hardware requirement. And we really want this to be things that any individual can set up on their home computers and be able to validate and be part of the network. Because if you have to go provision a server on Google Cloud in order to be part of a network, because no other hardware can run it, or it needs a fat internet pipe, then that's a little bit disconnected for most consumers. So we felt it was really important that anybody at home could be able to get set up and be part of this decentralized network. So we have a dev network right now that we're giving access to for testing. So if you're a developer, like I said, apply to the Flow Alpha, and we'll get in touch with you, or jump in Discord and start messing around, asking questions. Beta mainnet will come very soon. That's what will allow DApp developers to push production applications live and actually let users come in and play around. And then the open mainnet will be decided by the community once the network has been sufficiently tested. So we think we can get there pretty quickly, but we want the community to be part of it. So I'll pause right there. Our email address this is my personal email address. Feel free to shoot an email to me anytime. And then go to onflow.org. Lots of resources there. Lots of things that you can dig around and give us feedback on. And I'm happy to open up for questions as well.
Awesome. Thank you. No, that was a fantastic presentation. Really got me a good insight into Flow. So yeah, I think we had a couple of questions pop up in the chat. So first of all, you kind of have two schools of thought when you look about trying to scale at the base layer. So you for scaling in general purpose chains in general, you have general purpose chains, and then you have use case specific chains.
Yeah.
So where do you see kind of like Dapper in that kind of market? Do you see them competing with a certain set of chains in a way, or yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Flow is very much a general purpose blockchain. It's a general purpose smart contract network. Cadence is Turing complete. You can use it for anything you want. Already people are building DeFi things on top of it. They're building hardware, supply chain, physical supply chain things, anything that requires high throughput. But Dapper's focus is very much on games and entertainment, because we think that's how we bring the first billion users to the blockchain. So once they're there, you can build real estate products for them. You can build ticketing software for them. You can build personal banking for them. You can do anything you want. But those use cases aren't going to get a billion people in. A billion people won't come to the blockchain to buy or sell their house. That's an incredibly high barrier to cross. A billion people won't come to, in order to get a ticketing company set up, you have to get the venue. You have to get so many different pieces set up. So for us, we said Dapper's focus is going to be games and entertainment. We're going to bring the wave of adoption, but Flow is completely general purpose. Anybody can build anything.
That answers another one of my questions. And then I had a question. How did the relationship with the Libra team come about, and what kind of led you to want to use Move as kind of like the base for Cadence?
Yeah, well, I think we built Cadence, and as we were sort of internally working on finalizing it before we released it, we saw the Libra team release Move. And they hit the nail on the head in terms of the reasoning why, the actual sort of, they went into deeper depth in terms of virtual machine, and Cadence is just an interpreted language. And so we had they were both just perfect fits, as in we had started from making the thing easy to read, easy to write. They had started from make it performant. And so Move isn't that, easy to read and write. It doesn't have a great syntax. And so the two things are just a perfect fit for each other. And that was where we asked for an introduction to Michael on their team, and they were just so welcoming and fantastic to work with.